Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here to bring you all of the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today,
we've got 6 updates for you today, and I'm delighted to have Adam back with me as well, so I'm not having to do all of the talking. Exactly. And also it was Adam's birthday yesterday as well, so all lovely listeners can join in wishing Adam happy birthday, and happy birthday yesterday, Adam.
Thank you.
So we've got 6 updates for you today. We've got updates to Google Sheets, Google Drive, Google Chat, BigQuery, Google Chat and Google Meet. As always, there is a link in the podcast or the video description to the document that we read from. This document contains some more detailed information, some relevant links, some moving pictures, and lovely graphics showing these features in action. So let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so the very first update that we have for everybody this week is to do with Google Sheets. So there's improving filtering for merged cells in Google Sheets. So Google is excited to announce that users can now filter ranges with merged cells in Google Sheets. For ranges with vertical merges, users can create a filter and apply various filter types, such as condition, values, and color. For ranges with horizontal merges, users can create a filter and also apply various filter types, such as condition, values, and color, and also sort by values and color.
Okay, this is a very small kind of tweak that Google have made here, but I think this will be really useful for people in certain circumstances. I don't know about you, Adam, but I've definitely worked with some spreadsheets that have these merged cells in place, and the fact that you weren't previously able to filter them is really frustrating. It's quite an annoying thing when you're trying to sort of sort that data. And just as an aside as well, I really like the fact that Google have always allowed you to filter by colour in the cell as well.
I was thinking that. So then, for example, if you have some conditional formatting going on, so then if something means this, then it's this colour. If something means this, it's this colour. Then instead of filtering by numbers, you could just filter by the colour. So then you just have that visual representation of your data.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really, really nice feature. This is a great update and very useful for people who are working with those spreadsheets. It's like we said before about the updates. There'll be somebody out there who will have a spreadsheet with 80% of the spreadsheet
this will be revolutionary
cells
to somebody.
yeah, exactly. I'll be like, yes, I can finally do it. It will be really, really useful for them. So what's the rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, so rolling out to rapid release domains right now. Launch to scheduled release is planned for April the 3rd, 2024, so that'll be very soon, actually. This update is available to Google Workspace customers, Google Workspace individual subscribers, and users with a personal Google account, so available to absolutely everybody. And I've also added a lovely link in our document if anybody would like to learn more about sorting and filtering your data.
Great, thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So up next, Google Drive. So search for files directly using the new search bar in Google Drive. I think we've had a few updates to do with searching in Google Drive recently, but here is another one. So last year, Google introduced a new homepage view in Google Drive that makes it easier and faster for you to find files that matter most. You'll notice an expanded search bar and enhanced search chip capabilities that enable you to filter files across your entire drive.
Well, this is really, really useful. I mean, it's a really small tweak, but I think this is going to make it a bit more obvious for people as to where the search is and where the chips are. For anybody interested in this, there's a graphic in the document that's in our podcast or video description that shows what this looks like. And I don't think Google's really... I mean, looking at these chips, I don't know what you think, Adam. I don't think there's any kind of new chips, is there? It's more just an improvement on the design, right?
Yeah, I agree with that, yes.
Yeah, and it certainly does look neater. It's really funny when Google do things like, it's not just Google, Apple do it as well. You kind of go into Google Drive and you use it. I don't know what if you find the same, Adam. You use it and you think, oh, it looks perfectly fine. Like everything is, great and lovely.
and then it changes.
Yeah, they do a little tweak like this, and you go, "Oh my god, it looks so much better than it did before." It really looks very nice. And I tell you what, I was thinking when I saw this with the search bar like that, it kind of looks more like Google's homepage, Google's search page with the bar
Yes,
in the middle like that.
Yeah, actually, yeah, because then also, yeah, like whether you're searching directly on Google, it'd be whether it's images or places or maps or there's a few varieties there. It is a little bit like that, but with a big search bar as well. Yeah, and I know what you were saying about the changes. Sometimes you don't really realise what you're missing until you actually experience something new. It's like, oh, this is actually much better. And so, as you say, we have had a couple of updates to Google Drive and the searching within Google Drive recently. But as I say, I don't think there's necessarily been anything new. They've just made it easier, and then they're tweaking how easy it is. So then it's clearly been a mini evolution that they've been doing recently. But I like it. It's good.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, really nice. Makes it a bit easier for people to sort of find their way around that. What's the rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
Okay, rolling out to rapid release right now. Launch to scheduled release is planned for April the 15th, so a couple of weeks for that one. Available to Google Workspace customers, Google Workspace individual subscribers, and users to personal Google accounts. So everyone that has access to Google Drive, which is basically everybody with a Google account. I've also added a link in our document if anybody would like to learn more about how to use Google Drive.
Great, thank you very much, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So up next, so you can now send voice messages in Google Chat. So in continuing Google's efforts to improve the Google Chat experience and help ensure it's a useful tool for seamless communication, especially when on the go, Google is super excited to announce voice messages on Google Chat Mobile, with web support coming soon. Sending a voice message instead of typing enables you to save time, convey more information, and emphasize the most important information with the message receiver. Google hopes this highly requested feature helps you communicate with others more effectively.
Now, what are your thoughts on voice messages or voice memos, as they're sometimes called, like this? Do you use them?
It's not something that I use myself, actually, but I do have a particular friend that uses them religiously. And even though I always reply with text, they will always send a voice message back again. And sometimes it's a minute message, and sometimes it's a 20-minute message. And it's generally not something that I use myself, but I actually do really like this update. It definitely brings it a bit more in line to features that are available on other platforms like WhatsApp, which we kind of have mentioned Google Chat doing before. One of my first thoughts for this, which I'm not sure, can you send a message to yourself in Google Chat? Do you know? I've not actually tried.
That's a good point.
But I was thinking this would be super helpful almost for memos to yourself, because then if you're doing something, then sometimes it's just a bit easier. I don't know, say if you're working in a busy, dusty data cab or something, and you're trying to tidy it up, sometimes it's just a bit easier. Instead of typing away your notes, you can just speak them to yourself, and this could be an option to record that to then just reference on later on.
That's an interesting idea. I hadn't really thought of using it that way, but yeah, I guess if you could sort of send messages to yourself, I'm not too sure whether you can do that, but yeah, it would be an interesting idea to do that. I mean, I'm similar to you. I don't use voice memos myself, but I do chat with people who do use them, and I can see, it's not to dismiss them at all, I just don't use them myself. I was just interested whether you did. But the point is, it's another example of Google bringing Google Chat in line with the more familiar apps like WhatsApp and iMessage and things like that, and I think that's a really, really good idea.
Because there will definitely be people that are already using Google Chat, but they also already use WhatsApp or other platforms, and potentially they love using voice notes in WhatsApp. So then they will welcome this update in Google Chat as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's what Google are really keen with Google Chat is getting that familiar experience that people are experiencing on other platforms, in Google Chat, which is a really good idea because it's the best way to, in my opinion, to get somebody to, let's face it, that's what we're facing with our users, is going from WhatsApp to Google Chat, and you want to kind of make that as familiar as possible. So I think that's a good idea. I think this is generally very, very good. The message that's in the example here on the graphic just makes me so sad. It really. I don't know if you've read it, but it starts off wonderful. Like, shall I get some breakfast pastries for the team to be excited about the announcement? It just ends with, "Are you both okay with vegan?" I hope that voice memo says. I hope that voice memo. Yeah, exactly. I hope that voice memo says something along the lines of, "You're fired." So.
I do almost wonder. Like, I definitely get the usefulness of voice messages in a what I would say a friendly environment. If more of if you're just having a social interaction with somebody else, but then in a professional environment, if you're talking about meetings or things like this, I think it can be quite easy. Especially, basically, if you're a little bit like us, it'll be quite easy to waffle on a little bit, whereas the key nugget, the key piece of information in your voice message could just be, the meeting's at 10 o'clock, the meeting's cancelled, the meeting's going to be over here, but if you're waffling on for 2 minutes, talking about the weather first, then it's like, well, then sometimes I think it could be quite easy to miss the important bit of the message, or to get directly to the point, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you basically saying that you think like text. That's why text messaging is a bit more preferable to voice memos, in your opinion. Is that what you mean?
Yes, which I guess you could argue it may be a little bit more blunt if you just say that the meeting's cancelled, but then it's very clear that there's nothing can be misconstrued from that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it just gets to the point, which often in business you want to do. The only other problem that I can see with voice memos just generally is I don't think anyway you can really search them, and that would be an interesting advancement that Google might make. That's a good
point, actually. Yep. I also wondered how long voice messages would be retained within Google Chat, because I have a feeling, don't quote me, but I have a feeling on places like WhatsApp, it's only stored there for like 24 hours or something.
Really?
In other platforms. I don't think it's there indefinitely. I think it is a semi-temporary message that is sent.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, fair enough. What's the additional? Oh, look at the additional details. So they've already thought about it. That's really interesting. So, what's the additional details on the getting started here, Adam?
Okay, so the additional details is Google will be enabling transcription for voice messages in coming months, which I love that. I think that's going to be really helpful. To be honest, if somebody sends me a voice message and I just have the option, say, just transcribe this, I'll probably just go straight for that option every time, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then if I wanted to, then I may potentially listen to the actual voice message as well.
I just find it hilarious how overcomplicated we're making our lives with technology. It's like we invented the telephone, which was just great. You could just pick up and you could just speak to somebody who was far away. Then we were like, no, we don't want to do that quickly. We're instead going to have text messages, which is like 10 times longer. Then it's like, we'll make that quicker by having voice memos, which is basically a telephone but like slower. And then we're transcribing the voice memos back into text messages. It's just like, God's sake. So, but yeah, it's quite funny. Okay, cool. Well, that's great that's coming in coming months. And I think Google aren't talking specifically about search there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they'll, in the back end, they'll use that transcription technology to then be able to search the voice memo, so you don't even need to convert it. You can just do a search and it will say, hey, there's something in this voice memo that's related to what you're searching for.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's how I would design it anyway. And what's the getting started here, please, Adam?
Okay, so for the admins, this feature will be on by default, but it can be disabled at the domain or OU level by disabling all attachments. Visit Google's Help Center to learn more about controlling file sharing in chat. For purposes of Google Vault, Google Takeout, and security investigation tools, security investigation tool moderation tools, voice messages are treated as attachments, like any other message in Google Chat. So that does say even a standard message is actually an attachment in Google Chat. So that's a bit interesting. actually. For the end users, you can send voice messages on mobile to direct messages, group chats, and also spaces, and receive them on all platforms, including web. However, you cannot send voice messages on web at this time. I expect that will become available in the future, but for now you can receive your voice messages on all devices, but you can only send them on a mobile device. To record on your Android or iOS device, tap the microphone icon, start speaking, watch the live waveform visualize your voice. A timer counts up so you know exactly how long you've been recording. You can preview and then send your voice message, or delete it and then try again if needed. Voice messages can be interacted with, quoted, reacted to, replied to in threads, etc., just like any other chat message. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about sending voice messages in Google Chat.
Thank you, Adam. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, rapid release. There's a gradual rollout for this update, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on March the 26th. Scheduled release, there's also a gradual rollout, which is starting on April the 15th. And this update is available to Enterprise Essentials Plus, Enterprise Standard, and Enterprise Plus. Oh, okay.
Huh.
It's for Enterprise.
That's interesting. So they're only allowing this on Enterprise. They're only going to put this feature on Enterprise.
I just kind of assumed it would be available to everyone, really.
Yeah. They normally do that with these updates that are around Google Chat, and think, I'm really, really surprised about that they've only enabled that on Enterprise. Oh, well, okay.
Do you feel this is a premium feature that warrants only being on Enterprise? It's
not as far as I'm concerned at all. I don't. In fact, I think Google have done themselves a disservice by doing that, because, as we talked about before, this is a feature which people are used to on other platforms. So you've got to offer it on your platform to compete. So I think putting it only available on the high level, I think they've done themselves a disservice, because it's creating potentially a barrier of people moving from things like WhatsApp, because it's like, oh, you can have voice memos on Google Chat, but only if you're on the top tier, where, let's face it, most people are not.
To us, I'm not sure if that's going to make that sale, really, if you're considering which tier to go for, because we have kind of mentioned before on with various different updates with features, particularly to do with higher education tiers. I say, this particular feature could be a very good reason for going for one of the more premium tiers. I'm not sure this one is, really.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I just don't see that as a premium feature. So
I wonder if that will change again in the future. But for now, it's available to Enterprise.
Okay, no problem. We're not going to be able to change that unless the Google AI is listening to us, of course. Anyway, let's move on. What's the next update, please, Adam?
Okay, next up, BigQuery. So Workspace audit log exports in BigQuery now enriched with drive label metadata. Google Workspace audit logs enable admins to have visibility into activity on their data, such as file shares and downloads, when it occurred, and who within the organization performed the action. The Google Drive audit events include activity on content your users create in Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, as well as the files that your users upload to Drive, such as PDFs and Microsoft Word files. Google is excited to announce that for admins who analyze these logs in BigQuery, these events are now enriched with Drive labels metadata. Admins leverage Drive labels to apply descriptive metadata such as file sensitivity to Drive items. With the enrichment of label metadata on log events, admins can now focus their analysis on activity occurring on the most important files by filtering on label conditions.
I think this is really useful. I mean, the fact that you can do all of this sort of BigQuery stuff anyway on these Google Drive files and things, that's useful, full stop. But now adding in this Google Drive label system, which I always forget about. I always forget about the Google Drive label system and the fact that you can use that.
Because that's kind of the classification of files, isn't it? So you could say that these files are sensitive, or these are not, or these are relating to that project, or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, so it's because when you go, like going back to the previous update where you were searching, you've got those chips where you can specify what you're searching for. So I want to search for a Google sheet, and it's got this name and that is shared to this person. There's certain things that you can search on there. You're quite right. Labels kind of expands that to more of a customized thing. So you could put your own sort of stamp on there. You could put your own label on there to customize it. A good example of that might be our SOPs. So we've got a whole load of SOPs. For any listeners thinking, what the hell are SOPs? It's standard operating procedures. We love three-letter abbreviations in IT, or as we call them, TLAs. So the SOPs are, for us, in a folder already, and we've got quite good folder organisation. But we could attach a label that would say SOP to each thing, or KB for our knowledge base, and then we'd be able to sort of, I guess, search on those labels and interact with those. So you're quite right, Adam, that is what labels are. And having the ability to now get that information out of BigQuery or search on that information in BigQuery is going to be really, really useful for admins that use. Again, not something that we do, or we do for our customers, but I can imagine that there might be a day where we do have to do that for one of our customers, or maybe even ourselves, but probably more likely our customers. And that will be a really good addition to have on there to be able to sort of get that label information out. Thank you, Adam. What's the getting started and rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so getting started for the admins, visit Google's Help Center to learn more about setting up service log exports to BigQuery. Link in the document for that. For the end users, though, there is no end user setting for this particular feature. And rollout pace, this feature is available right now, and is going to be available to Enterprise Essentials Plus, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, and Education Standard and Education Plus. I thought it was going to be another update in favour of Enterprise there.
Yeah, well, pretty much is. I mean, to be fair, like, it's only education that they've opened it up a bit more, but that makes a bit more sense. Like BigQuery, these more kind of, it's sort of like when we see connected sheets updates and things, that is more right at the top end. This is opened up a little bit, and like we said many times before with these types of updates, the fact that they've opened this a bit to education is really nice as well. So that's good to see. What have we got next, please, Adam?
Okay, up next, so you can now access and sort shared files within a space in Google Chat more easily. So Google is enhancing the Files tab in Google Chat Spaces to improve upon the file management experience and create a central place to manage all conversation-related artifacts. The updated tab will now be called Shared. In addition to the new tab name, you'll also notice a refreshed user interface and features like a sort drop-down menu, support for shared links and media files, and more. This update reflects Google's continued effort to make Google Chat the central hub for project and team collaboration in Google Workspace.
Now, this is really, really useful and actually really relevant to a discussion that I was having with a client very recently, actually. So we had a secondary school that I was talking to, and they were looking at using Google Chat in a way that I hadn't necessarily thought of, because, again, we just don't operate that way ourselves, but a very, very useful way for them to operate. And what they said was, they said that often they end up a lot of back and forth on email when they're organising a school trip, for example. So I have a school trip, there'll be a lot of documents related to the school trip, there'll be the tickets for the event, there'll be the risk assessments, there'll be travel plans, etc., etc. And they'll end up in a lot of emailing backwards and forwards and trying to store it in a folder, and there's just a lot of complication going on, not to mention the fact that some people are working on Google Docs, some people are working in Word, some people are, it's all a bit all over the place. And we talked about how Google Chat could really transform that, because you could create a chat related to that trip, you could put up the risk assessment, but whoever's coordinating it, who in this case was a Google advocate, she said, it's great because I can make the risk assessment Google Docs. And then rather than people kind of going, oh, I've got to open Word to open this Word document, because they're in chat, they're much more geared up in their mind to go, oh, I'm just going to click that and just open it, which will be Google Docs. And I showed her this because this feature is here, Google are just improving it, right? But I showed her this sort of files feature where you could see all the files, and she said, oh my God, this is golden for what they want to do, because you could go into the files and you could just see, here's the risk assessment, here's the tickets, here's this, here's that. And as they're updating the risk assessment, they're not, as they're doing at the moment, emailing it backwards and forwards. They just click on that one document, type in their updates, and then they're all working on one document. And I find it amazing as well. Sorry not to go off on a tangent, Adam, but I know that you find this frustrating as well. I still find it amazing, and any admins listening I know will probably agree with me. I still find it amazing how many people can't quite grasp the concept of a single document on Google Doc that you go into and you work on and you update. Do you find that still?
It's not an issue that I've come across recently, but I definitely know what you mean, yeah.
They just can't, like, people are so ingrained in kind of like, I send you the document, you make changes, then you send it back to me, then I make changes, then I send it back to you.
I like to nip that in the bud immediately. It's like, no, don't be sending emails, don't be sending documents to each other via email. Like, we don't need to do any of that. Everything's on Google Drive, or even if it equally, it could be on one of the servers at one of our schools. So it's like, just work from that. So I think lots of the customers that I'm working with, they are used to kind of working with a document that's already saved in a shared location. And so I think that may be potentially less of a barrier. But I always try to get people to avoid just sending versions of files to each other over
Terrible
email.
idea.
I was like, no, that's a bit 20 years ago, to be honest.
So 90s. Yeah, I completely agree, and it's a terrible idea. That's a good analogy, actually. Maybe I just need to say to people, oh, it's like when you're working on the shared drive. You know, it's the same sort of thing of you're just working on this one document. But I really find that people struggle with
I do
this
really
concept.
like that idea, though, of for the example of school trips, because one of our other schools that was considering starting to use Google Chat actually used school trips as a good example of a good reason why they should use it, because at the moment they may be using things like WhatsApp or other things when to keep up to date with what's going on with the trip, just to say whether they've safely arrived or got back or whatnot, if there's any delays or whatever. But through Google Chat, then they will be able to keep everybody updated all in one place. So then you don't have to think, oh, let's go and text all the parents individually to say we're going to be 5 minutes late or whatever. It's like, no, just update the one space within Google Chat, which everybody can see already. So especially if you've already put all your documents and everything related to the school trip there, then again, it's just staying within this one little space to do everything to do with the trip. So yeah, I think it is a very good example of one useful way of using Google Chat.
Yeah, that's right. And for anybody interested in this update, please do check out the document, because there's a really nice graphic in here showing how this is going to be updated, and Google have done a really nice job with this. You know, all the files are lumped together, all the links are lumped together, all the media is lumped together. And I tell you, the other nice little detail that I like, Adam, is the fact that you've got that little arrow by each section, so you can kind of collapse it and expand each section, which is really...
So, for example, say if you knew it was a photo that you're looking for that somebody had sent, then you can just collapse your files and your links, because you don't need to see those, so then you can just see all the photos together easily. Yeah, I definitely do really like this update, because I do this quite often. I find it so helpful being able to share media through Google Chat, and then a lot of the time I will go back to reference it again, and so using this update, it will just be easier to quickly get back to that media.
Yeah, that's right, and find it. Yeah, for sure. So there's additional details down here. What does that say?
So using the new sort drop-down, you can narrow down lists of documents displayed based on categories such as file, link and media, or date shared.
Great, okay, so that's what we were just talking about there, no problem. What's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so getting started for the admins, there is no admin control for this feature. For the end users, at the top of a space in Google Chat, you will see some tabs, which are Chat, Shared, and Tasks. Upon clicking Shared, you will see 3 sections: Files, Shared, and Media. Visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about sending and sharing files in Google Chat, and there's a link in our document for that. Rollout pace and availability. Rapid release. There's an extended rollout for this update, so potentially longer than 15 days for feature visibility, which started on March the 27th. Scheduled release. There's a gradual rollout, which is starting on April the 17th, and this update is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers, Google Workspace individual subscribers, and users with a personal Google account. I think that's their new way of saying available to everyone.
Yeah, available to everybody. I wish I'd just say that. Thanks, Adam. What's the last update, please?
Okay, so finally from us this week, we have an update relating to Google Meet. So launch Miro directly from Google Meet Series 1 Board 65 and Desk 27 devices. So for more than a year, Workspace users have enjoyed the convenience of launching Miro's visual collaboration tools that can be directly installed in Google Meet. Google is building upon this by giving users the ability to launch Miro from a Series 1 Board 65 or Desk 27, either in an active Meet call or directly from the device home screen. Previously, you could access Miro's rich tools and templates on the Board 65 and Desk 27, such as brainstorming with digital sticky notes and planning agile workflows during a Meet call. With this update, you can access these tools directly from the Board 65 and Desk 27 whenever collaboration strikes outside of a Meet call.
Okay, I mean, this is almost a Google Meet hardware update as well? Are these hardware devices, these Board 65s?
I did think about putting this under Google Meet hardware or not, because the One Board 65 and Desk 27 are hardware devices, yes, but Miro is not.
It's a little bit of a...
It's almost like an extension for Google Meet.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an in-between. But then specifically talking about how you can now launch it directly on these hardware devices. So yeah, it's a bit of a crossover, isn't it? Okay, I mean, not something that remotely affects us or our customers. We don't use these devices. It's a very niche update. But hey, for anybody out there who's got a Board 65 or a Desk 27 device, then happy days. You're going to be able to launch Miro more easily. So I really don't have much more to say about that. What's the additional details here, Adam?
Okay, so in late 2024, Google will wind down the Jamboard whiteboarding app and continue with the previously planned end of support for Google Jamboard devices, leveraging the partner ecosystem, including Miro, FigJam, and Lucid Spark, is part of Google's effort to continue providing the best whiteboard experience in Workspace. You can also access an article that I've linked in our document, which is the Miro Help Center, for more information about migrating your Jamboard files to Miro. So that's good. So then it does look like you shouldn't need to lose any data or anything like that. And so although I've not actually directly used Miro, I do think it's quite comparable to Jamboard.
Yeah, it sounds like it is if you're able to sort of migrate across. So I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, is the fact that Jamboard is winding down, and so it's getting everything across to Miro, if Miro is what you're going to be using, so it's good that there's a migration tool there. Thanks, Adam. What's the getting started rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so for the admins, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about using add-ons with Google Meet on Desk 26 and Board 65 devices. For the end users, if enabled by your admin, again, visit Google's Help Center to learn more about using add-ons with Google Meet on Desk 27 and Board 65 devices. You can also access an article to Miro's Help Center to learn more about migrating your Google Jamboard files into Miro. Links to all of that are in our document. Rollout pace, rapid and scheduled release. There is a gradual rollout for this update, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on March the 28th, and is available. The Miro Imports tool is available to all Workspace customers, so that's good. The ability to open Miro and on Board 65 and Desk 27 is also available to all Google Workspace customers with Google Meet Board 65 and Desk 27 devices.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for all of that, Adam, and very, very well done doing all of that without having a coffee yet so far this morning. So we're unusually recording in the morning, listeners, and Adam hasn't even had his coffee yet. So congratulations to Adam for doing that without even
Coffee will be coming. It is on the way.
100%. Yeah, I don't blame you. Right, that's it, everybody. That's everything that you need to know about all of the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from wherever you cast your pods, and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you very much for joining us this week.
And we might be back very soon with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.